I asked you last week in one of my Vlogmas videos if you would be interested in seeing a video on exchange years, because I did one back in high school when I was about 17 years old, and I'm also hoping to be able to do one next year, and I think this might be interesting to some of you who want to do something like this as well. In this video, I am going to talk about all the things that I think are important and should be taken into consideration before doing something like this, before going abroad on an exchange year. But if I missed something, or you have something to add, or there's something I just didn't touch on that you want to know, please just leave your comments and video requests down below, and either I'll do like a follow-up video or I'll reply right back to you, but I'll definitely get to it at some point. Overall, I think exchange years are one of the best things ever. I'm so grateful to be growing up at a time and to be living at a time where such a thing is even possible and recommended, and where so many things exist to make it easier for you. So definitely, if you have the chance and if you are interested, go and do it, because it's one of the best things I've ever done and one of the best decisions I've ever made. And as I said, I'm applying for one next year as well, so I'll definitely recommend it, and I definitely want to redo this. Before I get started though, I just want to say that it's two completely different things to do an exchange year in high school and to do one at university. And so in this video, I'm just going to focus on the high school one, because that's the one I did already and where I have the most experience on, obviously. But I will try to do one on university in the future, either if I get to go or don't get to go. I'm going to make that dependent on that, because if I do get to go, I'll definitely have to think a lot about the preparation process, and I'll make a video for you on that as well. But for today, we're just going to focus on high school, because that's what I know about. At least a little bit. So the first thing you need to obviously decide is which country to go to. This can be a really easy or a really difficult decision depending on where you're from and what you want to do, what you want to accomplish. Now, I would say to make this decision dependent on your language skill of the country you will be in. Actually, I think it would be perfect to pick a language where you're not quite fluent yet, but almost there. A language where you feel comfortable in, where you think that you will be able to, at least to some degree, keep up with school, and where you feel like you'll be able to communicate and you won't be afraid of speaking, because you're gonna have to speak a lot. What I won't recommend is either going to a country where you already know the language 100% perfectly, because you are going to miss out on this whole entire aspect of improving your language skills, which in my opinion is one of the most important things that you will get from this exchange year. The same goes, however, for languages you don't speak at all or speak very, very, very poorly. If you only know how to say hello and goodbye in Japanese, you're gonna have a bad time in Japan. However, this can be remedied pretty easily by taking really intense courses before you leave, and even taking classes while you are in the country that you wanted to go to. Maybe they're offered at school there, maybe you have to pay for like a language school there, but I definitely recommend taking intense classes, and it's gonna help you so much, because if you want to get fluent, you're gonna need to have a basis. You can't just go into a country, not take any classes, and expect to speak the language perfectly within a few months. That's not how it happens. That's how it happens when you're 3 years old, not when you're high school age, at least in most people's cases. At least in my experience. But this really isn't too difficult to do. For example, a friend of mine spent this entire year in Peru studying there, and before that she only took like, I think, a 2-week Spanish course and didn't speak Spanish before that at all, and now she's better than me because she's fucking fluent and I'm not. So yeah, okay, you can do it. If you put your mind to it and if you want to do it, you can definitely do it. The next thing that's really important to decide is what organization you want to go with. If you know any people in that country, I'm sure you could figure something out privately and by yourself, but usually it's easiest to go with an organization. There are so many organizations out there. I'm not going to touch on all of them because that would take forever. I can just tell you the organization I went with was called EF, which is Education First. I personally was very happy with them. However, a lot of the people I talked to were not. They said that the families that we were staying with in Ireland, the host families, were getting paid, and a lot of them were doing it just to get paid, and they were very unkind sometimes, or very strict, or not fair at all, and the organization itself was sometimes a little bit wobbly. There were way too many exchange students in our school and in our city itself. There were about like 40 exchange students in my school, pretty much all of them in my grade, and like 20 of them were from German-speaking countries. That's not exciting. That's not exciting to either you nor to the native students there, because they'll just be like, oh, not a 40. We had 40 different last year. We don't give a shit anymore. There's not going to be any kind of cultural exchange except between you and the other exchange students, which still can be a good thing. I met so many really nice people that to a certain degree I'm still in contact with from that time, but literally 100% of them are not from Ireland. So that should say something. You want to go to the country to meet the native people there, not some other people who are also there to do the exact same thing and then end up meeting you, which again is not necessarily a bad thing, but exclusively you don't want that. So this is just something that you need to do, you need to research. You also need to be aware of how much money it costs, because it can be really expensive to do this. So definitely talk to your parents beforehand, because they're gonna have to pay a lot of money for this. Not only are they gonna have to pay for the organization and your flights, they're gonna also have to give you some money, some like pocket money for while you're there, and you're probably gonna need some more money than you do while you're living with your parents, because maybe your host family doesn't buy the exact foods that you like, and you can't just go up to them and be like, you buy my food now, or you're gonna need other things, and you're gonna want to travel, obviously. So there's a lot of money involved in this, and it's not something that everybody can afford, and you definitely need to make some sacrifices there. Maybe you can get a part-time job or a summer job and contribute at least a little bit to this endeavor, but yeah, it's definitely expensive. Another thing that you need to be mindful of is that you might have to repeat the school year if you spend the entire year abroad studying there, because sometimes you can't get credit for that. I actually specifically went to my school and asked them, is it okay if I go abroad for a year and I'll get a certificate and I'm going with this organization, I'm doing that, and they said it was fine. So I was very lucky, and I could just join back with my old class and I didn't have to repeat the year. But sometimes you might have to, because they can't guarantee that you will take the exact same classes you need and stuff like that. I think it's very specific to the schools, and you just need to sort that out with them, but definitely ask first, and so you won't, be surprised like all of a sudden you're in a class with people that are a year younger than you. It's not gonna be fun. So ask. Before you leave, you also want to be aware of the culture of the country you'll be going to. I think this is one of the biggest mistakes people tend to make, is to think that, oh, it's just going to be like here and I don't need to adapt in any way, shape, or form, and I don't need to do anything differently, but usually you're going to have to. Ireland and Austria don't have cultures that are too different, but I still suffered with culture shock, despite the fact that it's really similar, because there are some differences. There are always going to be differences. I'll probably suffer from culture shock if I went to Germany, so for a long period of time. So you need to be aware of that, and you need to know that's what's going to happen to you. Culture shock basically is just where you think that all of the people around you are idiots and what they're doing is stupid, and that what your country is doing, what people at home are doing is so much smarter. You know everything better. You know how to make mashed potatoes, and you don't add an entire jar of mayonnaise because that's fucking disgusting. Who the fuck would do that? That is so stupid. Irish people are so stupid, etc., etc. That's what's gonna happen to you, and hopefully, as it was with me, it's just going to be a phase and it's going to pass, but you do need to be aware that at some point that is going to happen to you. Probably not right away, but it's going to happen to you. So especially if you're going to countries with vastly different cultures, like I hopefully will be going to Japan, so I'm definitely going to have to, find out about Japanese culture. Luckily, I'm already in the process of doing that because I'm studying at university. But if you don't take any specific classes on this, you might have to do a little bit of research on your own, just so you know what you're getting yourself into. When it comes to packing, it can actually be a much more difficult thing than people anticipate. In my case, for example, I was only allowed to take one piece of luggage with 20 kilos. So, I was gonna go abroad for 9 months. 20 kilos, that's not that much. So when it came to clothing, what I did was to just pack a little bit of clothing specified for each season, because I know myself, I like to go shopping. I was gonna go buy some more things anyway, but for example, I'm not gonna buy an entirely new pair of expensive winter boots when I already have one. Same goes for a winter coat. These are pretty expensive items, so I'm definitely gonna bring them, but like maybe not my entire scarf collection, or my entire hat collection, or my entire swimming suit collection. So just make sure you have a little bit of everything to get you started, or to basically have something you can wear during that time or during the temperature and stuff like that, but don't bring everything. Downsizing, guys, really important, especially if you're like addicted to buying things. make sure you only bring what's really, really important. During your time abroad, I found it really, really interesting and helpful to me to keep a little blog, especially if you have a lot of people that you want to keep in touch with at home, but you can't really talk to individually all of the time without, you know, neglecting your life abroad. There, you want to build your own life there, you want to meet new people and do things. You can't just sit in front of Skype all day long, and you shouldn't be doing that either, because again, you're paying a lot of money to do that, and you're taking a lot of time to do that. You don't want to spend that just talking to people you could have talked to at home as well. That's not to say do not keep in touch. So that's why I decided to write a little blog. If you want to read it, I'll link it down below. It still exists. And it's really, really awkward because, again, I wrote it at like the age of 16 or 17, and my English wasn't as great back then, but I did insist on writing in English, so I'm sure you'll sort of understand me. Obviously, alternatively, you can also do video blogs, which I think would also be really interesting, but this is something that's really cool, not only for your family and friends, but also for you in the future when you want to look back on all the things you did and you find a blog and you're just like, oh my god, this is so interesting, and I was so stupid back then, and I made smileys and wrote sentences that had alternating upper and lowercase letters because I thought it was so cool. It can also be really embarrassing. Another thing is that you will be very independent when you are abroad, so you want to make sure to be mindful of the money you spend. Now, I got quite a bit of money from my parents every month, and my mom actually told me to do this because I never had this much money to kind of handle. I always got like 20 euros a month or 40 euros a month, and all of a sudden I had 200 to do something with, and that's just a major jump. And you know, you have to be very careful where you do with that money. And so I started writing up all of my expenses and writing down when I spend what, just to kind of keep it in my head and like repeat it and make sure I know where I spent what. And I mean, I never went back and looked at it, but just the process of writing it down and making sure everything adds up at the end of the week or at the end of the day or at the end of the month, however you want to do it, is very helpful. It makes it easier for you to budget for the following month, so you know, oh, this month I spent this much money on food, or like this month I spent this much money on like cultural things and going on trips and stuff like that. Maybe I should cut back on this other thing. So that's really important in general to do. I think it's really helpful to me. I do it still now, and I'm probably never gonna stop doing it because it's really helpful. And I suck at budgeting, but this is a very good first step. It is a very good first step. And lastly, something you also have to be mindful of is that you're probably going to grow apart from your friends at least a little bit. You are abroad for a year, you will be gone for at least like 9 or 10 months. You won't see them probably unless you go home for a little bit. They'll have their own lives, they'll continue living their life, and you're going to continue living a different life and experiencing so many things that are going to help you grow as a person, and that you're just going to help you open your mind to new things and to broaden your horizons, and you're just going to mature so much more quickly than you would have at home. And so it's pretty much inevitable that there is going to be this new distance between you and all of the people that you shared your life with before you left. This is completely normal because obviously your life have, you know, evolved into different ways, completely different ways, and not to say that you're 100% more mature than them or anything like that. They have grown up in that time as well, but you just don't share as much anymore because you have all these new experiences and they don't have the same experiences. They have other experiences that they haven't shared with you. And so this is just a new situation that you have to get used to, and it might take some time to grow back together. And in some cases, it doesn't happen at all, but you just have to be aware of that and know that that's a thing, and that's completely normal. People grow apart and they grow back together, and that's just the way life works, and you just have to be aware of that also being a possibility. If you are going to miss your friends over the course of that year, which you probably are, and which I definitely did, something you can do is to keep a little friends journal. That sounds really weird. I don't know what else to call it. I was going to show you mine, but I don't have it here with me, so maybe I'll show you at some point in the future. But basically, before I left, I had all of my friends write a little something into my friends journal. They just wrote something really nice. Some of them just wrote like, I don't know, different things just to keep their memories, basically, just to keep them in my head and to just make me think about them. They were really, really sweet. And I also gave this journal to some of the people I met in Ireland and some of the people I met after Ireland, like in England and stuff like that. So I have a lot of people in my friend's journal now, and it just, if I'm having a bad day or I'm missing a particular person, I just can go back and read it. And it's, I think, one of the sweetest things ever. And it's really nice to just have all your memories of the people you love and you loved condensed in one place, so you can read them and relive them whenever you like. So that's it, you guys, for this video on some tips on exchange years and on what you're going to have to expect when you get into this. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope this answered some of your questions and things you might have been wondering about the mythical thing that is the exchange year. If you want to do something like this, please do it. I totally recommend it. Oh my god, go and do it now because it's so awesome. And even if you're like a little bit scared and if you tend to be homesick, just do it. You're gonna love yourself for this later, because you're gonna be so proud of yourself for accomplishing something like that. My exchange year helped me grow up so much. I became a much more well-rounded person. I became someone I personally liked a lot more. I felt like I was finally on the way to becoming the person that I wanted to be, and it just felt all around awesome. I made so many wonderful experiences and met so many lovely people, and it's definitely something I would 100% recommend to everybody. I will see you guys soon. Have a lovely week. Bye. Maybe don't go to... What was that? It's just like a mouth spasm. You are probably going to grow abroad. You're not going to grow abroad. That would be creepy. I'm like growing my arm across the border. Now I'm half German. That is a really bad joke. On how to do this and what you're going to be expecting. A baby. You're gonna be expecting a baby. No, I'm sorry. So many bad jokes today.